The moment I walked into the agency, I felt their eyes slicing through me. 6 months ago, I was a wide-eyed junior copywriter, thrilled to land my dream job at a buzzing Chicago advertising agency. I imagined late nights brainstorming bold campaigns, not dodging daggers from a coworker's lies. But that's exactly what happened when Sarah, a senior colleague, spun a web of rumors to tarnish my name, all to steal the spotlight on a major client pitch. The whispers in the break room, the sideways glances in meetings, they stung like paper cuts, each one deeper than the last. Have you ever felt your reputation unraveling while you stood powerless? I did, but I clawed my way back, and this is how I turned a scandal into my triumph. My name is Emily, 24, fresh out of college with a journalism degree and a knack for crafting words that sell. The agency was everything I dreamed of: sleek glass offices, a hum of creative chaos, and clients who shaped trends. I threw myself into every task, from taglines to mood boards, hoping to prove I belonged. But the ad world is a shark tank, and Sarah was its sharpest predator. With her polished blazers and saccharine smile, she charmed the bosses while quietly guarding her turf as the go-to for big campaigns. When I started pitching ideas for a high-stakes client project, a rebrand for a national coffee chain, she saw me not as a teammate, but a threat. 3 months in, the scandal hit like a rogue wave. I walked into a team meeting to find colleagues avoiding my gaze, their whispers fading as I approached. Later, a Slack notification pinged. Sarah had posted in the team channel, vaguely accusing someone of botching a client deliverable. By lunch, the rumor had legs. Sarah was telling everyone I'd missed a critical deadline, costing the agency a key meeting. The truth: I'd submitted my work early, and the client had emailed a glowing review. But in the court of office, gossip facts were no match for Sarah's charisma. Who do you trust when the truth feels like a whisper against a scream? Humiliation burned through me, but so did defiance. I wasn't just the new kid anymore. I was a fighter, and this was my battlefield. Alone in my apartment that night, I replayed every moment: Sarah's smirk, the team's cold shoulders, my own silence. A YouTube video on toxic coworkers sparked a realization: Sarah targeted me because I'd been too quiet, too eager to blend in. I decided to rewrite the narrative, not with petty revenge, but with proof of my worth. I began documenting my work, every email, every file, building an arsenal of truth. More importantly, I anchored myself in a quiet vow: my talent, not Sarah's lies, would define me. The road ahead was treacherous. Sarah wasn't done playing games, and the agency's cutthroat culture thrived on drama. I'd need allies' strategy and nerves of steel to outmaneuver her without sinking to her level. One wrong move could brand me as the troublemaker, not her. Yet as I stared at the city lights from my window, a fire sparked inside me. I wasn't just fighting for my reputation. I was fighting for my place in a world that chews up dreamers and spits them out. This was my chance to rise, to show Sarah and everyone else that I wasn't invisible. But at what cost? The game was on, and I was ready to play. The fluorescent lights of the agency's conference room felt like a spotlight on my shame. It was a Tuesday morning, and Emily, sat clutching my notebook, trying to ignore the uneasy vibe. The team was prepping for the coffee chain rebrand, a campaign that could make careers. I'd spent weeks crafting taglines, and my latest pitch had earned a rare nod from our creative director, Mark. But as the meeting dragged on, I noticed Sarah seated across from me, typing furiously on her laptop, her lips curled in a way that screamed trouble. By noon, the whispers started. I caught fragments in the break room. Missed deadline. Client was furious. Such a rookie move. My stomach dropped. After lunch, a coworker, Lena, pulled me aside. Emily, Sarah's telling everyone you screwed up the client deck and cost us a meeting. People are pissed. I blinked, stunned. That's not true, I stammered. I sent the deck last week. The client loved it. Lena shrugged her eyes, sympathetic but skeptical. Just watch your back. Back at my desk, I checked my emails. There it was, my submission, time-stamped 5 days ago, with a reply from the client praising my fresh perspective. Yet Sarah's lie had spread faster than wildfire, fueled by her clique of loyalists. In the team Slack, her message loomed, "Let's all double-check our deliverables. Can't afford another slip-up." The subtext was clear. I was the scapegoat. How does it feel to be betrayed by someone you barely know? My face burned, not just from embarrassment, but from rage. Sarah wasn't just stealing credit, she was stealing my future. That night, I paced my tiny apartment, the Chicago skyline, mocking my smallness. Why me? Was it because I was the youngest, the newest, or because my ideas threatened her spotlight? I remembered a college professor's advice. In a snake pit, don't hiss strike. I wasn't going to let Sarah's lies bury me. I opened my laptop and started organizing evidence screenshots of my work client emails, even timestamps from our project management tool. Each click fueled my resolve. This wasn't just about clearing my name, it was about proving I belonged. But confronting Sarah directly could backfire. I needed a plan, one that would expose her without making me the villain. As I scribbled ideas, a single question loomed: could I outsmart her in a game she'd mastered? A week later, the agency's open plan office felt like a minefield. Sarah's rumor had taken root, and I sensed it in every forced smile, every hushed conversation that stopped when I walked by. But I wasn't the same Emily who'd shrunk under scrutiny. I was watching, listening, and piecing together the puzzle of Sarah's betrayal. The breakthrough came by accident. Late one evening, I stayed behind to polish a campaign brief. The office was quiet, save for the hum of the AC. As I grabbed my coat, I overheard Sarah on a call in the conference room, her voice low but sharp. "Don't worry, I've got Mark eating out of my hand. The rookie's out of the picture. She'll never get lead on this." My heart raced. I ducked behind a partition, straining to hear more. "Yeah, I tweaked the deck to make it look like her work tanked. No one's checking." Have you ever heard your name dragged through the mud and felt your blood boil? I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I went forensic. I dug through the project files and found the smoking gun Sarah had edited the client deck after I submitted it, swapping my slides for half-baked ones and blaming me for the error. She'd even forwarded a doctored email to Mark, claiming I'd missed the deadline. The audacity was staggering, but so was my clarity. Sarah wasn't just opportunistic, she was calculated, and she'd underestimated me. Back home, I mapped out my next steps. Confronting her in a team meeting would be too risky. I'd look petty, and she'd spin it against me. Instead, I'd let the truth do the talking. I compiled a folder of evidence, the original deck, my submission email, and the client's praise. I also noted Sarah's edits in the project log, time-stamped for all to see. The truth was my weapon, but timing was my shield. I needed allies and a moment to strike. As I closed my laptop, a memory surfaced: my dad, a union organizer, saying, "Never fight alone, kid." I'd been too focused on surviving to build connections. That had to change. What was Sarah's next move, and could I stay one step ahead? By mid-month, the agency was a pressure cooker with the coffee chain pitch looming. I'd transformed my fury into focus, channeling it into a plan to reclaim my reputation. Sarah's lie had painted me as incompetent, but I'd turn her game against her, not with drama, but with precision. First, I fortified my defenses. I set up email filters to flag any messages mentioning my name, ensuring I'd catch Sarah's next jab. I also started logging every interaction with her, from casual chats to project updates, creating a paper trail she couldn't twist. My desk, once a chaotic mess of Post-its, became a war room with folders labeled evidence and client feedback. But defense wasn't enough. I needed to go on offense. My strategy was simple: shine so brightly that Sarah's lies would crumble under scrutiny. I doubled down on my campaign ideas, crafting a bold concept, blending nostalgia and sustainability. Think cozy coffee shops with eco-friendly vibes. I pitched it in a team huddle, watching Sarah's jaw tighten as Mark scribbled notes. "When was the last time you turned pain into power?" I also scheduled a one-on-one with Mark, framing it as a check-in. "I'm really excited about the campaign. I said, sliding him a printout of my latest work. Just to clarify, my deliverables were submitted on time. Here's the trail. He raised an eyebrow but nodded, promising to review. The risk was real. If Sarah caught wind of my moves, she could escalate, maybe even sabotage my work again. I wrestled with doubt late at night, staring at my ceiling. Was I playing too safe or too bold? A memory of my first college internship flashed, being overlooked for a project because I didn't speak up. Not this time. I'd also started chatting with Jake, a laid-back designer who loved yoga as much as I did. Over coffee, I tested the waters. Ever feel like someone's twisting the truth around here? His knowing nod told me I wasn't alone. One ally could change everything, but who else was watching? Just when I thought I had the upper hand, Sarah struck again. A Friday afternoon email from Mark landed like a grenade, Emily. The client flagged issues with your latest tagline draft. Let's discuss Monday. My heart sank. I'd spent days perfecting those taglines, and the client had approved them in a call. Something was off. I pulled up the project files and found the culprit. Sarah had revised my draft in the shared drive, replacing my punchy lines with clunky ones and passing them off as mine. She'd even CC'd the client, framing it as my mistake. The betrayal stung, but the audacity lit a fire. How do you keep going when the deck is stacked against you? I could have stormed into Mark's office, but that's what Sarah wanted, a meltdown to prove I was unhinged. Instead, I recalibrated. I emailed Mark a polite reply. Thanks for the heads up. I'll review the draft and clarify any mix-ups. My original submission is in the drive with timestamps. I attached screenshots of my work and the client's approval. Then I took a riskier step. During a team coffee run, I mentioned to Lena, "It's weird my taglines got swapped in the drive. Must be a glitch." Lena, who'd warmed to me since our last chat, frowned. "That's shady. I'll keep an eye out." Her support was a lifeline, but I needed more. The weekend was a blur of yoga and strategizing. Jake invited me to a hot yoga class, and as we stretched, he spilled Sarah's been bad-mouthing you to the designers, saying you're sloppy. I shut it down, but she's relentless. His loyalty emboldened me. I shared my plan to present my original taglines at the next client meeting, bypassing Sarah's sabotage. Jake grinned. "Count me in, I'll back your visuals." One misstep could have ended me, but one friend changed the game. Monday's meeting loomed. Could I pull this off without sparking all-out war? The client meeting was my make-or-break moment. The conference room buzzed with tension as the team gathered, Sarah perched at the head like a queen holding court. I'd spent the weekend refining my pitch, weaving my taglines into a campaign narrative that screamed innovation. But as Mark opened the meeting, Sarah dropped a bombshell. I've reworked the taglines to align with the client's feedback. "Emily, you can sit this one out." My pulse raced. She was sidelining me, banking on her clout to steal my work. I caught Jake's eye. He gave a subtle nod. "When the spotlight's stolen, do you fade or fight?" I raised my hand, voice steady. "Actually, Mark, I'd love to share my original concept. It builds on the client's initial approval." Sarah's smile faltered as Mark gestured for me to go ahead. I launched into my pitch, projecting my slides untouched by Sarah's edits. The taglines popped the visuals. Thanks to Jake, dazzled, and the client leaned forward, scribbling notes. Halfway through, Sarah interrupted. "Those ideas overlap with mine." I didn't flinch. "That's possible," I said, "but these are my submissions from last week logged in the drive." I clicked to a slide showing timestamps and client emails. The room went silent. Mark's eyes narrowed, not at me, but at Sarah. The client broke the tension. "This is exactly what we wanted." "Great work, Emily. The truth doesn't just set you free, it burns through lies." Sarah's face was a mask of composure, but her hands gripped her pen like a lifeline. After the meeting, Mark pulled me aside. "I'm reviewing the project logs. Keep up the good work." I'd won this round, but the war wasn't over. Sarah's silence felt like the calm before a storm. What was she planning next, and could my new allies hold the line? A month later, the campaign was in high gear, and I was no classic office drama. Sarah wasn't done. She'd gone quiet, but I knew better than to trust the calm. Then during a team sync, she played her final card. "I've noticed some inconsistencies in the campaign deliverables," she said, eyes flicking to me. "We need to audit everyone's contributions to ensure quality." It was a trap. Accuse me of sloppiness, dig through my work, and twist anything to fit her narrative. I was ready. When the snake strikes, you don't dodge, you disarm. Before the meeting, I'd shared my evidence folder with Mark and Lena, including Sarah's doctored files, and her callous phone call I'd overheard. In the meeting, I spoke up. "An audit's a great idea, Sarah. Let's start with the project logs. They show every edit time-stamped." Jake chimed in. "Yeah, I noticed some odd changes to Emily's files. Worth a look." Sarah's composure cracked her voice sharp. "This isn't about me, it's about accountability." Mark cut in. "Enough. I've reviewed the logs. Emily's work checks out. Sarah, we need to talk." The room froze. The moment justice catches up is sweeter than any victory lap. Sarah's allies squirmed, and Lena shot me a grin. After the meeting, Mark called Sarah into his office. I didn't eavesdrop, but the raised voices told me enough. By the next day, Sarah was reassigned to a smaller project her influence dimmed. She never apologized, but her silence was admission enough. The campaign launched to rave reviews with my taglines plastered across billboards and social media. The client sent a personal note thanking me, and Mark gave me a shout-out in the agency's newsletter. Winning isn't about gloating, it's about standing tall when the dust settles. Sarah stayed on, but her click dissolved and her jab stopped. I'd earned respect not just from Mark, but from colleagues who'd once doubted me. Jake, Lynn, and I became a tight crew, grabbing post-work drinks and swapping campaign ideas. I'd learned to balance ambition with connection to speak up without fear. The scandal had scarred me, but it also forged me. I wasn't the naive newbie anymore. I was Emily, the copywriter who'd faced a storm and walked out stronger. Every lie you overcome is a brick in the foundation of who you become. As I typed up my next pitch, I smiled at the city lights. This was my place, and no one could take it away. But what new challenges waited in the ad world's shadows? The scandal was my crucible, forging me in fire. I learned that toxic coworkers thrive on silence, but truth and allies dismantle their games. If you're facing workplace drama, don't shrink, document your work, find your crew, and let your talent roar. What lies are you ready to conquer? Share your story below, and let's lift each other up. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Here's to rising above the noise and claiming our place.